right. Yeah, we have, oh, there's Eric right now. Hello, Eric.
Hi.
Ooh, defying gravity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eric, can we get your camera to go the other way? Is that possible? There we are.
All right.
Oh, that's uncomfortable for you, but it's better for us. So I'm sorry about that. I'd like to welcome everybody here. It's so nice to have everybody in at least one virtual space. Hold on, I'm going to make sure I can see the Q&As here. For all of the audience, I'm going to be monitoring the questions and answers. If you have questions you want to pose to anybody on the panel, just go ahead and type them into the Q&As, and I will I'll shoot them over to anybody who the questions point at. And I'll also, let's see, I'll also try and monitor the our chat here for our panelists. So it's so nice to have everybody here. For all of our viewers joining in, this is the panel for the We Are Here exhibition and project that was put on at the Cuesta Harold J. Miossi Gallery and is up there now, and it runs through November 5th. It's open every day of the week, 11 to 4, and by appointment. Encourage you to come on by if you haven't made it yet. We are joined tonight by some amazing people. I'm so happy to have them here. First of all, I'm going to introduce Courtney Hale. She is the big push behind Race Matters Slow, and is one of the kind of founding members of the We Are Here project that was part of Belonging 2021.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Say hello, please.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's so good to see you, Eric, and see you, Stephan, and all be in a virtual space together. It's been a while. Yeah, I'm Courtney. I'm a co-founder of Race Matters, now the executive director and kind of the big push. I like that title. And so yeah, We Are Here was part of our Belonging 2021 series. It was a series funded in part by the city of San Luis Obispo to sort of advance their initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we started, first of all, Race Matters started about 5 years ago. And we started kind of in a simple way of, like-minded people thinking there should be more, at the very least, dialogue and awareness around racial justice, and just the fact that it's a thing that affects San Luis Obispo as well, and that national issues are in San Luis Obispo County. And then, of course, many of us in San Luis Obispo County have roots and friends, and we leave sometimes. So what's going on does affect us, even though sometimes it feels like there's an air of denial, or a sense that not everything affects SLO County. And so Belonging 2021, the central iteration was, or is, it's still happening, it has legs. We Are Here, which is now at Cuesta. And as I think most people know, Eric was our lead photographer. So the stunning portraits that were on the city banners, if you saw them on Higuera Street. But even if you did see those, I do recommend you visit Cuesta, because the large prints really just fill the space and take on a new life. They're really stunning. So another plug just to come to the exhibit We Are Here at Cuesta. Weekdays 11 to 4 and by appointment. And yeah, we started planning it about a year ago. Our first photo shoot was in January. Stephan got all the behind the scenes. Our colleague Jordan worked with all of the participants and made everyone comfortable and just made it happen. And Richard Fusillo, who I'm sure a lot of the audience out there know, and who we know was a great mentor for the project. And we probably wouldn't have had access to the Cuesta studio during that time without him. So glad to have gotten that beautiful footage, the behind the scenes, the photographs, and really pushed through during the pandemic. And I felt it was time, and I think a lot of us did, to, even with everything going on, there was inspiration. And so I'm really happy that we were able to execute it, even with hiccups and all the scheduling and pivots and different things that have to happen when you're doing this during a pandemic. But I'm really proud with how it came out, and really excited to have Stephan and Eric here.
So thank you, Courtney. I think that's perfect to transition over. I'll introduce now our artist and photographer, Eric DeShawn Lerma. He is the vision behind the photographs that are on display in the gallery. And Eric, if you'd like to say a few words, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, no, this was, I mean, overall, just an absolute privilege and honor, and, you know, everything under the sun, to be a part of this project, to really help highlight the faces and voices of San Luis Obispo's Black community, who, as long as I have lived here, or previously lived here for about 7, close to 8 years, definitely goes overlooked, is often dismissed, is, you know, really non-existent in a lot of ways. So to really help bring some of these powerful voices and influential characters to light via photograph and just very simplistic, powerful portrait photography has been such an immense joy. And it's been very impactful on me emotionally, and just really helped me reflect on my journey here. As a Black person in San Luis Obispo County, as a queer person in San Luis Obispo County, you know, it's really, really allowed me to dissect and understand my experience, seeing how others might have shared the same experience as me or very similar. So very, very happy to be able to do that with this project.
Thank you, Eric. And lastly, I wanted to introduce our artist and videographer for the project. He is the force behind the video installation there. So Stephan Heraldo, I'd like to introduce you, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, I just want to thank Courtney and Stephanie for bringing me onto the project. It was such an honor to work alongside Eric and Richard and be in the studio space. I think it was really nice to just have some sort of social interaction during the middle of pandemic. Like, you know, even the scheduling was kind of nuts, and trying to find time for 11 different community members to kind of get everything done. But it was just such a nice feeling to just be around each other, and also get to know everyone. I think sort of what gets lost in all of this is, you know, the Black community over the last year in SLO, that basically the only sort of spotlight on the community was because of protesting. And to be able to get to know everyone on a personal level and be able to capture that on film, to just be like, we're all just people. These are people in the community, and they just have a great story to tell. Like, everyone comes from different experiences, and to be able to share that and get that captured on film, even just for a few minutes, I feel like it was a really powerful thing to do. And I just really feel honored to be a part of it.
That's really great. I agree so much with all of that. I'm going to turn back to Courtney here for a second, because she's going to have to leave us pretty soon. And I just wanted to ask about what's happening with Race Matters now and in the future, and like, how can someone get engaged if they want to get engaged with you all?
Thank you for asking. So like I said, we're in about our 5th year. We are currently transitioning to 501c3 status and doing everything we need to do and becoming a little more grown up, and that's why I'm the executive director now. And so that's been great. And so there's building that infrastructure and the things that happen kind of in between the fun events and things like this that are definitely going on behind the scenes. We also have we have our social group Noir Slow that we just wrapped up our last in our set of socials over the summer that were really, really beautiful. And we also have a group called, and that's going to continue, so stay tuned for that. That's a social group intended for Black identified community members and significant others. We have a group called Raise Up Slow, which is intended to connect children of color, support children of color who are growing up here, and also provide tools for all families to talk about race for those who have not. And so they're having an event November 7th. So keep an eye on Race, I'm like, what's our name? Race Matters Slow's Instagram and Raise Up Slow. The flyer will be on social media this weekend, but that's an event intended for children of color and families. And it's actually going to be a drumming event with a local drummer, Tracy Morgan. And there's going to be some storytelling. So that's intended again for children of color and families. It's going to be outdoors at El Chorro Regional Park. So that's a family friendly event that our Raise Up Slow arm has in the works. And lastly, Restrictions Apply is our short documentary about racially restrictive covenants in San Luis Obispo. And so that's been in a couple film festivals, and we're going to be able to now share it with the public, and we're going to have a discussion guide as well. So it's kind of our offering as a tool for, and not just people in San Luis Obispo, because racism and racial covenants have existed in many neighborhoods, but certainly it's something, it's a very tangible issue that can't really be disputed, and a good entry for conversations and action about racism. So that's our offering to this community and far and wide. So stay tuned for that. And in 2020, we did have a sudden rise in sort of profile and responsibility, and we did get an outpouring of resources, which was amazing. And it's so great to be able to have talent like we do with Eric and Stephan and all the people. Hannah, our graphic designer, who made our awesome colors that I still am obsessed with. Oh, by the way, our tote bags, if you'd like some of our swag, are for sale at the Cuesta College exhibit, and you can pay through Venmo. But wait, what was I saying? Yes, resources. Everything's looking great right now, but to maintain this level of, one, productivity, and two, the level of beauty and being able to compensate folks and whatnot, we'll definitely need a long game fundraising effort, and that'll take the support of the community, donors out there, and governmental entities and everyone. So that's kind of where we're headed. That was probably a longer answer. But kind of taking it, as you can tell, I definitely like projects. So it can be a thing where there's a project and then the next project and the next project, but we are also working on our longevity and volunteer infrastructure, so we can get more people involved. And how you can get involved is through our website, clicking the Get Involved Volunteer tab. We are currently, we have help, luckily building our volunteer infrastructure now, so we can have a little more structure and a solid foundation from which to grow. And I guess that's it for the current Race Matters checkup. And thanks to Eric and Stephan, I said Efton, Eric and Stephan again, just for the beautiful work, and really, and thank you Miossi Gallery and Stephanie Allen out there, who really made this whole connection happen with the Miossi Gallery. It really just takes it to the next level and has elevated Race Matters and the Belonging series, and just, Eric and Stephan's work. So I'm so happy that people will have the opportunity to be more immersed and experience the exhibit, because so much work went into it, and it was a long road. And so I'm really happy that we have this kind of second iteration, other than the banners and the web experience.
Thank you, Courtney. I very much agree. And I would like to note to everyone that there are links in the chat that Magnolia and Stephanie have put in there for you all to get connected with Race Matters and to get connected to be able to buy one of their awesome tote bags that are available. And all that goes back to supporting Race Matters and supporting the great work that they've done. Obviously, that's where this project kind of came out of. So thank you, Courtney. That leads me into a great question that I had for both of our artists about how the role that you feel that art has and video and photography have in bringing attention to areas of our communities that are hidden or have been subjugated and pushed aside, and bringing light to them and letting other people kind of see what they should be seeing in the everyday about members of our community who exist. So either one of you, I'd just love to hear what you have to say on that.
Go for it, Stephan.
Oh, thanks, man. I think that the importance of this project in particular and just art in general, I think the most important thing is being able to see people for full human beings and not just the bits and pieces that might be portrayed in the media or just kind of the little glimpses that people might be sharing of themselves. There's a level of humanity that you don't get to see in a world that is moving so fast. We're scrolling past photos of people that we know, people that we don't know, people that we want to know. And it's just a very short moment in time that we're able to do that. So I think what is great about seeing this iteration of the We Are Here project, it's just a whole different thing of being able to stand in the middle of the room surrounded by Eric's portraits, being able to hear the voices of the participants talking about their experience of just being a person. There's just something super powerful of just being able to walk into that space and just be surrounded by these faces and voices.
I 100%, agree. And to echo your point, is that so much of what we see in terms of videography and photography via, film, television, social media is about looks and beauty and, status, whereas it sometimes can get lost on us that videography and photography are really, really powerful tools of documentation and historic documentation, journalistic documentation. For me, why I was really, really drawn to this project was one, highlighting Black community members, but one, my photography has always been about, being photogenic isn't being about being beautiful or pretty. It's about being able to tell a story through a portrait, being able to reveal character and history. And that's what I feel that we were really able to accomplish through these video interviews and through these portraits, is that each person's portrait, while similar in composition, you can really, really feel their character. And once you listen to their interviews or watch their interviews, you can see that story come through the photo. And that's been really, really impactful. As I've seen, so I haven't unfortunately been able to see the gallery myself because they've just moved out of state. But just to see people share their experiences with me via social media, and to kind of really feel that immersion, through a video on a phone, I can only imagine what it feels like to feel that in person. So very, very proud to have been a part of creating this kind of experience. But to go back to my original point, you know, photography and videography are really, really crucial parts of history, and especially Black history, where art has really been such a huge component. We are often kind of the trailblazers and trendsetters of what's big in art across all mediums: fashion, film, music, photography, you name it. So it's really, really been great to focus on the power of photography and videography, as opposed to just the superficial, maybe kind of aesthetically pleasing oriented aspects that we all get very, very hooked on, again, you know, with our just constant bombardment, for lack of a better phrase, of social media and other media types through all of these platforms that we have available to us.
Yeah, I am reminded of the art historical pinning of the show with your comments there, Eric, about Frederick Douglass and his work and his writing about recapturing the narrative and the identity through having a photograph taken where the viewer is actively staring or actively, you know, communicating directly with the camera. So they're almost, you know, their photograph isn't really being taken from them. They're really imposing themselves onto the photographic object, which translates into these very powerful portraits of people. In the show, we have this really amazing painting that was actually done by Courtney and her family, of a Frederick Douglass photograph. And I think that interplay is so interesting. It shows that this practice that you all are involved in is rooted in a story that has been ongoing and that has a lot more work to be done on it. It's a rich history. I want to ask a question for everybody before we lose Courtney, because she's gonna have to go soon. Where do you all see us moving forward from this exhibition? Because the exhibition's going to close, and these beautiful portraits will exist, but they won't exist in the artistic space that they're in now. And so the question is, what happens next? Obviously, there was a lot of movement on the streets, and there was a lot of movement in other forms, and we have this now. So where do we go next? What do you all see as the next move, the next space for us to kind of inject this energy into? And Courtney, if you want to go first, we can.
That's yeah. I'm like, I've been thinking about it since you started asking it. I'm like, whoa, where do we go from here? I think, gosh, it's when you think about the exhibit and the power and the dignity, and moving forward, wanting to not only with the participants, but the communities they represent, keep that sense going and keeping that that fire going in a way. And it's you know, there is burnout with activism, and it has been, gosh, what, a year and a half now. And it's, the energy is different now for sure. And I think a lot of I can't speak for the activist community, but there is a sense of where do we go? And so I think it's keeping these not only conversations, but I kind of consider like this exhibit in a way a conversation of keeping the conversation alive, and keeping these lived experiences still in the forefront, even though we might not have rallies every week or every month now, and people are on the mic sharing their stories and their joy and their pain, but still just showing the humanity and fabulousness and joy and pain that exists in our communities, and also supporting the activism and the policy change. I'd very much like to see physical space. I know there's talk of a multicultural center, but certainly, and I love in Race Matters, we've been able to collaborate with a lot of entities, from you guys, the Miossi Gallery, to SLOMA and Slow Film Fest and Slow Motion Films. And it's been really, really great, sort of bringing sort of racial justice and or Black voices, social, educational, cultural experiences into the community. But that said, a physical space where folks could know where to go, I think could definitely be a good place to start. And I know there's talk of a multicultural center and plans underway, so I hope to see that come to fruition in a meaningful way. And yeah, so I think physical space is the next frontier, and just keeping supporting all the content creators and artists and the activist community, the BIPOC community, Black voices, and while pushing forward with policy as well, supporting organizations who are doing that.
That's excellent. Thank you, Courtney. Do you need to go now? Or are you gonna?
So I'm gonna sign off. Thank y'all so much. Bye, Stephan and Eric. Thank you again so much. Thank you, Stephanie out there, and Jordan and Hannah, and everybody, and Richard. All right, signing off. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, Courtney.
I
Bye.
Stephan and Eric, if you wanted to take a crack at that. I know it's a big question, but I think it's just something that people are naturally inclined to wonder.
It's a huge question. It really is. And you know, aside from my moving and for having my own reasons for moving away from SLO, and just being ready for something new after being here for, you know, the better half of a decade, I'm very excited, you know, through this project and through the movement of this year and last. I've met so many amazing people. And if they are to stay here, I know that they will do just incredible things for the community. I have a lot of hope and optimism for the future of San Luis Obispo. In recent months, there has been a change in leadership on the city level that I think is very positive, and not to be too terse or too frank, but I think the current and new mayor of SLO has a very wonderful interest in the progression of this community, in a way that feels a little bit more sincere than her predecessors, I will say. So I'm very excited from that level to see progress. But where things get a little tricky, and I myself am included in this, is that, you know, San Luis Obispo, the city itself, is a dichotomy in terms of population. It is people who have lived here for a very long time and have retired here and have established very deep roots here. And then there are younger people like me who come here to go to school, or just get their first start in certain industries, whether that's agriculture or part of the tech industry that's starting to grow here. And then they look for that next step, because SLO does only have so much to offer a person who's younger, and especially a person who belongs to marginalized or minority communities. So where it gets tricky is that you have great people who are a part of these movements, but when they feel that itch, that yearning to leave, it affects that progression. So the big question is, how do we keep the momentum going? And how do we, you know, keep the progress alive and well as people leave? And how do we make sure that what's going on is documented well, and it can be passed on to future generations and future community members? So, you know, let's say, because Cal Poly is dominated by Cal Poly's calendar in a way, that we don't lose progress or momentum with every graduation cycle, right? So that's always been something top of mind for me every year that I've lived here, is that there have been these movements and really important key figures, but then once they graduate, sometimes it goes to the wayside, or again, it's kind of feel like we have to reinvent the wheel because the process of this last person or group was not well documented, and to no fault of their own. Documentation's hard. It is very hard to keep track of a project, a movement, a campaign. It involves a lot of people. So it's, you know, in no way a bad thing, but it's just the truth. So we have to really, really work hard on that. The other thing I will say is that, going back to the point of people establishing really deep roots here, San Luis Obispo, the county and city, is a bubble. And there are people who we have seen and continue to see work very, very hard to keep that bubble intact. And for people to not confront it, for prime example, Tiana being arrested under what I will call just completely fabricated and false pretenses to make a point, and to maintain that bubble that the district attorney's office, the police departments, and the sheriff's departments have been working really, really hard. And some city council members have been working really, really hard to maintain, because they do not want to be confronted with the issues that exist, because it disturbs that kind of slow, happiest city in America lifestyle that has kind of been, has been around for a very long time, but I would say since Oprah said that in 2014 has really, really kind of stuck, and people are really trying really hard to protect that. And so, like, no, it's just a great place. Everyone's happy here. There's no conflict, which just isn't the case. So with all that being said, you know, I'm very hopeful and optimistic about the future of SLO, but I do recognize that there's a lot of work that has to be done. And there's a lot of, frankly, very powerful opposing forces who will do a lot, if not anything, to keep the current status quo and zeitgeist maintained.
Stephan, do you want to add anything?
I don't even know how to follow that, Eric, so thanks.
I've been holding that.
No, I think, I mean, I agree with you in terms of everything that you said, especially when it comes to trying to maintain momentum. I know Courtney had mentioned, you know, the level of burnout is very real. I think that's sort of where me and my wife have been sort of while working through this project, starting in, I think we were in talks of joining the Belonging 2021 team like in December. And it's now October, and we're still, you know, there's still deliverables and things that we got to get done so that we can get this exhibit. So just the number of hours put into just this project, let alone the things that we were doing with Community Roots Project, of trying to just stay involved as best as we can, and use our skill set of documentation, like you're saying, Eric, of photographs, video, being able to design infographics and being able to share with the community. It takes a toll. And I think just sort of seeing how the last 18 months, is it 18? I don't know what date it is. Just seeing how everything has played out, I think, at least for me on a personal level, I have a vested interest in keeping that momentum, because I'm here. I'm wanting to raise my family and set up roots here so that my child can see a future that is more diverse, is more inclusive, and doing all that is benefits not just myself, but for the community as a whole. So I think being able to remind folks that even if you can't give 110%, being able to give 10%, just anything that you can, is just being able to move the needle in the right direction. So, you know, I think it's being able to see how powerful an exhibit like this can be, with a couple of people just teaming up, getting together on the weekend to create something. That's amazing to me. And I think a project like this can be duplicated, and you know, just finding those stories and just finding ways to provide visibility and a platform for people to just be themselves. I think that's something that I want to be able to do. And I know that's something that my wife wants to do. We want to be able to go out to the community and just tell stories. We're at the moment just trying to nourish ourselves and make sure that everything's good on the home front. And we'll be back at it when we kind of have our ducks in a row and kind of figure out how to work sustainably at a sustainable rate so that we don't reach that burnout point, and being able to ask for help and really create that community that we want to see.
I think I think all that is very accurate. I think the burnout is real, but I think it's just everything you mentioned there is just dead on. I would like to make a note that there is a request for both of you to have your social media and websites that you either have or your social media that you have, that they would like for you all to share them if you can, so that the people participating can go find it. And there's also a question that was asked if we can make a point to talk about the Community Roots Project, which I think is important to get to, because that's Stephan, that's your thing. So could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. I guess I can go with just like a quick intro of like how we actually even started. So my wife and I, we have a background in photojournalism. And one of the things that we've been kind of put on a back burner, just because we have, at the time we just had our day jobs and all we could do was kind of go out into the community. We'd bring our cameras out and we'd photograph different protests and rallies and things like that. But we didn't really have a platform set in place to do anything with it. It was more just going out, feeling good about being supportive, and it was just a way that we knew how to participate, was through the medium with using our cameras. And what started as sort of kind of the same thing when was it the first rally on May 31st of 2020 at Mitchell Park. Probably like 20 minutes before we left to join the rally, my wife had said, "Hey, I think we should start filming this. Or I think we should do film this time." I was like, "Okay, I mean, we have the gear, let's do it. Let's just start documenting and doing it that way." Little did we know it was going to be an entire summer and fall of activism and protests and things that happened that we were not anticipating at all. And now we have a stockpile of footage that we've compiled, and we're working on a short documentary and a little bit of narrative to kind of highlight sort of that funnel effect as something that started as a nationwide story, and funneling it down into seeing what has happened within our community, and with Tiana and her mom and her story. It's all in the works. It's all kind of just, it's a ton of work. It's all just stuff that we kind of stumbled upon. It wasn't anything that we planned for or knew that was going to happen. We would love to be able to submit something by the November 30th deadline, the Slow Film Fest, but we'll see. Working with very limited resources, and we have jobs and parents, so it's just doing everything that we can to try to, like I said, to provide visibility and a platform for the community. So that's sort of why our social media account has kind of gone quiet. We try to share things as we've connected with other organizations, but content creation is super hard. And just being able to find the time to vet different stories and being able to go out and tell them. But like I said, we will at some point get to a sustainable rate that we can kind of keep momentum and just keep our dreams alive of being those journalists out in the field. So we'll get there. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's excellent. And yeah, so you did post communityroots.project on Instagram and communityrootsproject.com. And I'd encourage everybody who's joining us to go there and check them out and see what you can do to contribute and help out, and see if we can help them get over that goal line and get some stuff submitted, because I think the documentation is really important. And the stories you're telling are also really, really important. I would like to focus on both of your roles behind the camera with this project, and ask about what that experience was like to connect with these participants, these community members who all came in and shared time in a relatively, especially at these days, fairly intimate setting, and kind of just see what that experience was like for you all throughout this project.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was everything, right? It was fun. It was amazing. It was incredible. At the same time, you know, there were certain moments that were, we shared pain, we shared, you know, sadness, we shared grief. It was a very emotional experience is what I'll say. You know, it encompassed almost every emotion that you could think of, just because I myself have grown up in communities being one of the very few Black people my whole life. And a lot of the other people, most of the participants in this project have the same story. So to be able to relate on that is very special, because, you know, it doesn't happen super often. So there's a certain type of joy in that, but then there's also that pain in people not understanding your identity, or people blatantly not respecting your identity. So there's a lot stemming from there. Your identity being used as a medium of humor or jokes, or criticism, you know, and a lot of the time when you're kind of the token minority in these communities, you are just already so alone that the last thing you don't want is to count yourself out of having some sort of friendship or relationship with people. So you kind of just roll with the punches. So to be able to share that experience with people, again, very special. There's some joy in it that, you know, you don't feel so alone after all, but at the same time that it's such a shared experience can also be just a kind of a painful reminder of what the reality is of some Black people or some minorities' experiences within communities like San Luis Obispo counties. But overall, yeah, like you were saying, especially in the midst of a pandemic, this was a very intimate setup. So my goal as a photographer, you know, the camera is an intimidating thing. Being in front of one, being the subject of a photograph can be very intimidating. So I really did try to make people feel as comfortable as possible. You know, we want them to be their authentic selves. I think sometimes when people step in front of a camera, they think it's almost like a persona or a character that they have to be. But with a project like this, it's like, no, that's the opposite of what we want. We want you to be your most authentic and sincere version of yourself, because we want your story. You know, we're not interested in necessarily the hair, the makeup, the look, you know, the outfit you put together. While those can combine to represent someone's authentic identity, what really counts is your character, and really making sure that your values and your morals and, you know, everything that is you comes through in that photograph. So really kind of making it a very minimalistic and, you know, kind of stripped down approach to photography, as opposed to other sets and other projects that I've worked on where it's been very, you know, glamorous, and there's a very larger than life, so to speak, and really just making it a human experience.
Yeah, I can definitely echo some of that, where, you know, with the focus being to capture someone's authentic self. I think my role behind the camera was really to just allow for space. Being Filipino and my family, we had to make the choice. I went to Cal Poly, and it was interesting moving back to the area, knowing what we were getting ourselves into with the lack of diversity. It was like, yes, this is going to be something that is going to be a challenge, but actually like doing it and going through it. I think what was nice about this project was being able to find those similarities and being able to connect with community members and just having a conversation with them and having the camera be a buffer. It's like, yes, we knew that the goal was to capture something on film so that we can have these moving pictures and voices to connect with the portraits. But at the end of the day, every time I went home from a shoot, I would just feel grateful and just so happy to share that time. And to hear everyone's story, and then to hear it, 20, 30 times in the editing room. It just brought a lot of good energy and human connection. And it was fun. I think genuinely every participant, I could tell that they were just enjoying being put in the spotlight and just being asked to share. And it wasn't something that they had to perform or rehearse. It was literally, they showed up. They gave us a list of, artists and music that they like. So in the studio, we'd be playing, their favorite artists and music in the background. So like the in-between takes of the behind the scenes, some of them are dancing or some of them are singing along. And it was just this really cathartic experience, I think, for everyone. In a time that was so heavy, we were able to spend, an hour and a half with each person of just kind of letting loose and getting to know them through this project. And for me, that was everything, to be honest. Like, I think that it is amazing that being able to see Eric's work up on Higuera Street and now in the museum space, like, I think that's all amazing. But to be honest, like, I feel most grateful for just having that time to spend with each person. I think
that is that comes through in the video, and it comes through in the photographs. This intimacy and shared experience, and how joyful and heavy it was at the same time. I am going to open this up for any questions we have from this. Oh, looks like we have one here, because we have a short amount of time left. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them now and I'll relay them to them. What can others take from your work about lifting up people to be seen and heard in the community? Or we could say, do you all feel that there are similar or other avenues that that people could take, that you think people would take to participate in a similar venue as you all did?
I think the most important thing, whether it's if you're taking photos of someone, if you're creating a film or any other medium of videography, or you're writing an interview, perhaps, the most important thing is looking for the truth, whether that's the truth about the certain topic or a person's individual truth. Kind of going back to the earlier point of, kind of being bombarded with so much content on social media, in the space of, let's say, like Instagram and TikTok. so much of what we see is what's trending and what's the hot thing to do right now, and what's the, you know, whether it's a dance, whether it's a sound bite, you know, what have you. It's fun. You don't have to think about it a lot. And you kind of just get to enjoy that 5 or 7 seconds. But when you're trying to create something that's meaningful and you want it to be impactful, the most important thing, again, is the truth. Don't go for the same story that everyone's going after unless you feel that I know that I can dig deeper, or I have a different perspective on this that I think a lot of people are missing, or just looking for something that you truly have interest in and that you really want to understand, or that you do understand and want to share with people. The most important thing when creating any type of work is making sure that it aligns sincerely with your interests and values as a person.
Have anything to add there, Stephan?
I'm trying to just look at this question and see. I think it's really just, I think just having a concerted effort of just being aware of your interactions, your being self-aware of your thoughts and feelings about certain topics or towards individuals. And I think just being able to reflect and have a level of consciousness now that we've gone through this global moment and things are sort of, you know, going back to quote unquote normal. It's really hard to unsee or unlearn everything that has kind of bubbled up to the surface. So I think with this project, I think it's really just being aware and just making a conscious choice to know what sort of content you're intaking, or what you're choosing to experience out in the world, and like what sort of things are you supporting, and going beyond that surface level understanding and seeing how everyday things can, you know, have a ripple effect in terms of who it affects. So I guess in short, just be self-aware and be a good person.
Certainly. I think that's so nice to hear from both of you about that. If there are any other questions, I suggest anybody ask them now. If not, we're gonna work on wrapping a little bit. And as I start to wrap this up, I would love to hear Eric, what if you have any creative projects now, and I know some people would be very interested to know what's going on. It's always challenging for artists when they move and when new jobs start and everything, and a lot of times the creative kind of flow gets broken because of life, and life is challenging. But if you do have any kind of creative projects going on right now, I'm sure people would love to hear about them. But if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, you know, to be perfectly honest, I am on a bit of a hiatus right now. I made that decision earlier this summer. Like for so many people, 2020 and 2021 has been an incredibly stressful year on all fronts. You know, I've gone through 2 jobs during the pandemic, seeing the movement and what was happening to Black community members, Asian community members throughout the pandemic and throughout the end of a truly terrible presidency was hard. And so at some points when I was pursuing creative work and taking on photography projects, it did start to feel like work, and photography hadn't felt like that before. Prior to that, it had been a sense of relief, a therapeutic act, something that was a passion, right? Something that I always enjoyed doing, no matter how often. But just with all of the stress, it really started to feel like work. So I knew that because of that, kind of lack of emotional investment that I was starting to feel, it was best to just step away from the camera for a while. I'm on an indefinite hiatus. It's going to be sometime next year. I'm not exactly sure when I'll start pursuing new projects, and especially since I am in a new city, having to make new relationships and figure out who I'll be working with in that type of space. There's a lot of foundation and groundwork that I have to lay there, but I'm always, regardless if I'm working on something or not, I'm always willing to have conversations with other artists or other people who are looking to create any type of medium and be a sounding board and be so, through this event, we're able to connect on social media, or through any other space or event, we're able to connect on social media. Please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm an open book. Very, very happy to work with and collaborate with other artists. But yeah, for right now, I'm just taking some time for myself and seeing what's next for me in terms of my artistic expression.
I mean, if all of us have learned anything from the past year and a half, 2 years, is that self-care is so important. So I'm so happy to hear that, and that finding time to pause is just as important as finding time to make work. So I think that's wonderful to hear. I'm glad that you're finding that time, and we hope if you choose to make more work in the future, we're all looking forward to seeing it, because I know that this show has been so impactful, and this work transcends the photograph. It kind of goes beyond what the photograph simply as an object is, and it becomes something a lot more, which is a very special thing, I think. Is there anything you all would like to add as we kind of wrap this up about the project, or about kind of, how you feel with the exhibition in this space, or just anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye to everybody else? No? It's okay.
Well,
I want to give everybody just a chance to add their last, if you had any other thoughts that you were like, I want to add that in, this is the time to do it. But if not, that's fine.
I think, the most important thing is that if you see something and you feel that it could benefit from a medium of art, whether that is film or photo or writing or music, anything, if you see it and you feel kind of that, you either feel that in your heart or in your soul, or you kind of hear this little voice in your head that's telling you like, this is important, I would say really follow that. Really, really listen to that. A lot of the times your intuition will not steer you wrong in that way. And chances are there are a lot of people who are looking for that sort of work to be displayed and created. And that's what I've learned through this project, is that there really was a need for this that I felt and was somewhat aware of, but then upon taking it on and accepting the offer to be the photographer on this project, really learning how much it means to this community and this county.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap it up now. I would like to thank both of my guests here, and encourage everyone to, if you haven't been to the gallery yet, get to the gallery, the Harold J. Miossi Gallery at Cuesta College. We are here, we'll be on display through November 5th. And the gallery is open weekdays from 11 to 4 and by appointment. And it's an amazing show. And we're so lucky to have you both have work in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.